Welcome all our viewers from all parts of the world and from all parts of Africa in particular. This is Monday, the 10th of October. We are welcoming you to our live discussion about mental health. And our theme today is ensuring mental health for all becomes a priority for all. This is the theme that we'll be talking about, that will be guiding our discussions. And we want to believe that you are going to enjoy the session. My name is Joshua Macau. I am a moderator from Kenya. I have a colleague moderator, Lisa Pichesi from Malawi, and we are going to take you through this session for the entire period of 1 hour, 30 minutes. So please feel welcome. And if you have questions, you be sure to drop them on the chat box, on the Google, on the Twitter, on our Facebook, and also our Telegram groups, so that we may be able to pass them to the speakers. So Lisa Pichesi from Malawi, welcome to this event.
Thank you. I am going to take on introductory part of World Mental Health. World Mental Health is an international day. Today it's an international day for global mental health education, awareness, and advocacy against social stigma. Our theme is mental health, a social work concern. As we already know, mental health issues are present across all areas of social work, including child protection, older people, criminal justice, and physical illness. All social workers, not just mental health social workers, need to be aware of the multitude of mental health conditions that exist. The mental health encompasses emotional, psychological, and social well-being. And the mental health, it influences cognition, perception, and behavior. Yeah, there are many factors that affect mental health. And these factors include abuse, social isolation, and family crisis. Can I give a chance to the speakers to share what they have prepared for the discussion? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Lisa, from Malawi, for giving such a wonderful introduction. Just to add on that, according to the Health Organization, they have defined, or rather they conceptualize mental health as a state of well-being. And this I quote, "It is the state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community." That is according to WHO. Now we are going to go straight to the event, and whereby we are going to have the first speaker. The first speaker comes all the way from Malawi, and we are so encouraged to have a lady taking the lead in this discussion, and this is Faith.
She's about to speak.
Faith.
Yes.
Faith, you can take the stage. She is talking about limited health, mental health facilities and their impact to mental health. How does this limited mental health facilities, for example, in countries that are developing, how is it affecting the people in these countries? And she is going to share with us and enlighten us on the effects of limited mental health facilities on mental health. Faith, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. So today, being a World Health Mental Day, I wish to share with you how limited mental health facilities, stigma, and culture affects one's mental health. So the World Health Organization, in its recent reports, said that more than 25% of people globally suffer from a mental disorder in their lifetime. So globally, we have developing countries and developed countries. So in developed countries, the resources, the services, the facilities are usually available everywhere, and people usually access them even at school, in hospitals. While in developing countries, these resources and facilities are usually scarce, and they're usually found in urban areas where they're centralized. These resources are not usually found in schools, in hospitals, and people in rural areas fail to access these services. So these people are usually affected greatly by the mental health. Uh, Stigma also in culture has a great influence on one's mental health. When people are isolating you, when people don't allow you to talk about your what's stressing you, or usually men uh, are usually said by culture that they are strong, they're not weak. Men usually do not cry. So whenever they try to express their feelings, how they're feeling to someone, the other person feel like the man is weak. They do not usually get help, or even from the police or everywhere. So this stigma and culture usually comes from people who lack knowledge, people who are not well educated, or people who do not really know what mental health is all about. So us as social workers or any other person, we have to make sure that these people get treated. The government also should make sure that these people get the facilities, the services that they need, so that mental health could maybe decrease, yes, in our countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Faith, for that wonderful presentation. Especially, you have touched about how these facilities, how men are perceiving, sharing their problems with other people. How are these people going to look at them? Like they are going to look down upon them? Really, I think we are really true victims of the same, because we don't want people to see our weaknesses. But I believe with the current information, current knowledge that we are getting each and every time, we'll be able to transform ourselves, our minds, and be able to seek help. Our viewers from YouTube and Facebook, please feel free to drop your questions on the chat, and we will be able to respond to those.
Timu yangu tupate matokeo mazuri, na ndo kama hivi mnavyoona Simba
Joshua, unmute yourself. We lost you.
Yes, thank you, our viewers from YouTube and Facebook. Kindly remember to drop your questions on the chats, so that we'll be able to see them and respond to them as appropriately and within the time frame. We are very glad to have you here. And you can see, just to add on what Faith has talked about, limited mental health facilities. The mental health facilities are very crucial when it comes to dealing with mental health. And this is a problem that has been catalyzed by in some countries, because of the political instabilities, the poverty levels, ignorance levels, and other factors that are there and present in most African countries. Thank you so much, Faith, for that wonderful presentation. I don't know if Lisa Pichesi from Malawi, my colleague moderator, has something to say on that. Lisa?
I would like to appreciate on what Faith has said. Yes, the limitation of facilities, it's the biggest problem in developing countries. And it's a law of us social workers to improve on this so that we can try to prevent mental health problem issues in different countries. Thank you once again, Faith, for the wonderful presentation you have made with us today.
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa Pichesi from Malawi, for that reflection. Our viewers, please remember to drop your questions on the YouTube and Facebook so that we can be able to respond to them. There's these questions that are troubling you. How are we going to address the issue on limited mental health facilities? How are we going to address the issues of policies in our countries? How are you going to address the issues of also other issues such as unemployment, etc., and how all these issues are come together to bring about mental health issues and problems that we need to avoid so that we be able to contribute to our communities and to ourselves as well. At this juncture, I would like us to move to the next part where we are going to talk about social media and mental health. We are going to see how social media has impacted on mental health. We are going to see both the positive impacts and the negative impacts, and we'll also be able to share on how we are going to avoid some certain practices that may lead us to dangerous mental health conditions that we need to avoid so that we maintain a well-functioning persons and well-functioning communities, so that even in the workplaces that we are placed, therefore, we are able to output according to the requirements that we need to do as professionals. At this time, we welcome Ronald Mtata from Zimbabwe, all the way from Zimbabwe. It is quite an honor to have you here, Ronald. Kindly feel welcomed in this session. And we really looking forward to hearing from you. Welcome, take the stage. You have 30 minutes or less. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joshua. I am excited to be part of this platform this evening. My name is Ronald Mutatabikwa, and I'm from Zimbabwe. I'm a new qualified social worker. I'm also a podcaster, the founder of the Social Work Series podcast, which is there to share amazing stories about social work, the social work profession in our country, in our region, and also in the world. So I'm super excited. I just want to appreciate everyone who is connected on the platform, our viewers. We appreciate you for taking this time to help us commemorate the World Mental Health Day. It's such a great time to be alive, where we talk about mental health. And today my presentation mainly is going to be focusing on how social media affects mental health. I'm going to be talking about social media effects on mental health. And this was part of a research that I did, that I carried out just to check on how social media affects mainly young people's mental health, because young people are the largest population of people who access social media platforms. And these are the people that are much active on social media. And just to give you a brief background of why we need to talk about social media and mental health at this very time, is because we are currently coming out of a pandemic, the COVID-19, which came with a lot of restrictions, such as that people were locked up in their houses because of lockdowns that were introduced in different parts of the world. And as such, we are social animals in that we are people that need to network with others, right? So that aspect, we were deprived of that aspect because of the pandemic that we're in. Therefore, people then took the relations that they had to social media. And by that, because on social media, we're meeting as people coming from different backgrounds, people coming from different cultures. There are a lot of things that are bound to happen. We have people who are naturally bullies. So when it comes to social media, they then get to try and assert dominance on social media, thereby affecting other people's mental health. That's why we have to talk about social media and how it affects mental health, because it has become part of our life. Social media has become part of who we are because we constantly communicate with colleagues from different parts of the world. All right, so to begin with, I will start with the definitions of the key terms. According to the World Health Organization, they conceptualize mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And mental illness, also called mental health disorders, refers to a wide range of mental health conditions, disorders that can affect your mood, thinking, and behavior. And social media has been defined as these are web-based services that allow individuals, communities, and organizations to collaborate, connect, interact, and build community by enabling them to create, co-create, modify, share, and engage with user-generated content that is easily accessible. So after getting this definition from World Health Organization, it means if there's anything that then can take your ability or that can make you not be able to cope with the normal stresses of life, to work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution, if you fail to do that because of a certain mental health issue, that becomes a mental health problem. All right, so I'll just give a brief background about of mental health here in Zimbabwe. So in Zimbabwe, we have a Mental Health Act of, I think, 1996. But now recently, the government of Zimbabwe, through the Ministry of Health and Childcare, they implemented the National Strategic Plan for Mental Health Services, 2019 to 2023 policy. It was introduced in 2019. So this law emphasizes that mental illness or mental health issues affect not only people, but also their families, communities, and the nation's economic prosperity. So the National Mental Health Strategic Plan of 2019, it comes to replace the Zimbabwe National Strategic Plan for Mental Health of 2004 to 2018. And also the latter was informed by the Zimbabwe National Mental Health Policy of 2007. But prior to this, mental health in Zimbabwe was guided by the Zimbabwe Mental Health Plan of Action in 1984. So these are some of the strides that we have made as a country in terms of strengthening mental health services and also care. And if you look at it, there's an emphasis that mental health does not only affect individuals, but it affects the families, communities, and also the nation. So I think this is an interesting part to us as people, as social workers, because we work with individuals in casework, we work with groups, we also work with communities. So from the research, different social media platforms that have most young people's attentions, we have Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, Messenger, TikTok, Twitter. We also have Instagram and Snapchat and Pinterest as well. These are some of the things that I found out from the study that we carried out. So now let's look at the main thing, how social media affects mental health. So social media may lead to depression through quite a number of ways. The first one being that social media has pressure. We have social media pressure, and I think most of us came across this clip that was saying the pressure is getting worse. All right, so if you're on social media, you will notice that there's a certain standard that has been set. This standard starts from even success. There's a certain on social media, there's a lot of pressure. This is because there's a certain standard that has been set on social media. And I'll give an example of Instagram. If you open your Instagram, there are people who are there to post things, a certain lifestyle that they portray on social media. And what that does to another person who's on the other side of the screen is they get that pressure, they feel that pressure. And once they feel that pressure, it means they're going to be stressed. And also they're likely going to think that they're not being serious with their lives. They're going to have low self-esteem issues. And once they have those, it means their mental health has been tampered around with, and they cannot deal with the daily normal stresses of their lives. And once that happens, we say we have a mental health problem. So that's how social media affects people's mental health. And also we can talk about social comparison. And I'll give an example of Leon Festinger. He was a psychologist. He came up with a theory of social comparison, and he was saying people have an innate drive to evaluate themselves, but often in comparison with others. So what this means is that as human beings, this is in us, that we are always constantly trying to evaluate ourselves, but most of the times we do this by trying to compare ourselves to other people. So if you check on social media, there are influencers, there are people, trendsetters, there are celebrities, and these have set up a certain standard. These are models, these are your people that are working with different brands. And some of these, they work probably with company cars or mobile companies where they can access these expensive mobile gadgets or these cars, take pictures for advertisements and so forth. So for someone then who is on social media, they get to compare themselves to other people that they've seen, probably the celebrities or trendsetters that I'm telling you about. That then affects them and affects their mental health heavily, because the way they see themselves will change. Because as the psychologist said, that we would want to evaluate ourselves, but in comparison with other people. So they'll feel as if they're not making progress. But little do they know that some of these people are in different situations. These are people from different cultures in different countries. And life is different. So that disparity that is there in terms of what's portrayed on social media and what someone might then face in reality might cause one to be depressed, because they constantly think about what they're doing wrong. So that's another way in which social media affects mental health. And also, we also talk about cyberbullying. There is a trend of people being sending in or commenting bad things about other people on social media, cyberbullying. And because people can hide behind the screen and behind a keyboard, they can have ghost accounts, as they are called. They can say anything and still their identity might not be known. So that might give them some sort of safety to then start cyberbullying and cyber victimizing others. So to the victims, their mental health is very much affected, because they might tend to try and isolate themselves from others, or they might not feel fit to be associating with other people, and they start then isolating themselves. They become lonely, and later on they're depressed, they're dealing with a lot of things. And it's said that from a certain research that cyberbullying was linked with a lot of suicides rather were linked with cyberbullying. So that's also another way in which mental health can be affected by social media. Then an African university research showed that people who spent most of their time on social media were lonely, and loneliness is often associated with depression, as I've said. Then another way in which social media affects mental health is through suicide. So mental health triggers suicidal thoughts and behaviors. And the way this happens, it might happen in two ways. The first one is the availability of information and content that talks about suicide, or content. Right now, if someone goes on social media and they ask anything about, if they ask how to commit suicide, they're going to find that information there. And whatever content that we consume is stored in our mind. We're always going to have this thing. We might not be cognizant of whatever that we're consuming, but it's something that is going to be projected out. Then another thing about suicide is people have been cyberbullied, or people are depressed because they've been comparing themselves, or they've been pressurized by the things that they see on social media, might find suicide to be a coping mechanism, unfortunately. So they might then end up having suicidal thoughts and behaviors as a coping mechanism of all these things that they've gone through. And to tell you how much social media pressure can then affect people, recently I've been reading some sad news that a Nigerian socialite died while they were going under a surgery of trying to modify their body. I believe that was because they saw a certain standard that has been set on social media. Now, that might have gotten to them. I'm sure they were depressed, or they were thinking or stressed about however they looked, and they wanted to modify that. And unfortunately, they passed away in the process. So that on its own is evidence enough that social media affects people's mental health. And as a continuation, social media affects young people and social media users generally in a way of, I would say, substance and drug abuse, because, for example, on TikTok, there are challenges, or those are trends where people then take part and work on these trends. And some of them encourage them to start taking some substances or to take drugs, because the people that they see, the models, the role models that they have on social media might be doing those things, and they start trending. So someone wants to be like that. Someone wants to look cool. They then hope on that. I'll give an example. There was a TikTok challenge of a song called Sip My Alcohol Challenge. I saw it where a lot of people were being filmed while drinking alcohol and dancing to the song. And from that, I thought that these trends may lead some social media users to then start abusing drugs and substances. And in the long run, that might affect them or lead them to addiction. And once someone is in addiction, it means they are no longer mentally well. So now if they fail to do or partake in their daily routines, it means their mental health has been tampered around with and they are not mentally well. And also, high social media usage may lead to anxiety. And I'll tell you for a fact that from the research that I was doing, there are people who just tell you that they can't spend 30 minutes without holding their phone. They just feel the urge of wanting to check what's happening online. There are people like that. Those people have this anxiety. They're anxious just to check what's happening on their phones. That might come in two ways: anxiety and also addiction, because they are highly addicted to their gadgets, thereby affecting their mental health. And also addictions might come in ways of explicit content, because one, the availability of explicit content is there on social media. Anyone can access them. So having that then might lead to people being addicted to different things because of the content that they've been exposed to. All right. Social media might also affect one's mental health, even by then disrupting their sleeping habits. People might end up having bad sleeping habits. And if you look at that picture, it seems as if this guy is in bed and it's at night, so already late, but he's on his phone. I don't know what he's checking, but he's on his phone. That shows you that his sleeping routine might have been interrupted by social media. And let me show you how loss of sleep might then affect mental health. So if someone lacks sleep, the next thing, we have tiredness. They are tired. And from that, they have a difficulty in coping with daily life. And once someone has that difficulty, from the definition that we had from the World Health Organization, it then means they're not mentally well, because they're failing to deal with the normal stress of daily life. Then from that, they might have low self-esteem. From low self-esteem, their feelings of worry and stress. And from that, we can all tell that once someone has reached that level, their mental health is no longer well. So loss of sleep is also a way in which people's mental health is dealt with by social media. Then I will just end with giving the coping mechanisms that I think young people and social media users in general can employ in dealing with the effects of social media on their mental health. The first one being that you should find someone to talk to, no matter the case that you have, the issue that you have, always find someone to talk to, because they say a problem shared is half solved. So kindly find someone to talk to. Most importantly, take time off social media. I know we might be glued and we might be trapped in our phones. We always want to check what's happening, but it's always good when it's not that busy. I know with businesses in our gadgets, it's always good that when it's not that busy, you just take a day or 2 days off social media. Just refresh, just talk to friends, talk to families, because social media also strains the relationships that we have with people that are surround us. Then also block and unfollow social media platforms that post content that affects your mental health. Because as I've said earlier, the information and content that you consume is what you then project out there. And it's something that is going to be stored in your mind. Whenever you see it again, you're going to remember it because it's something that has been stored. So it's always good to then block and unfollow those toxic celebrities or toxic social media platforms that you know are going to affect your mental health. Then lastly, find a hobby or a sport to do. This is important to take care of your mental health. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been my presentation. Thank you.
Health. I would like to add up on how social media affect the mental health. It affects the mental health in a thinking capacity, yeah, psychological as well. Because when a person is addicted to social media, everything that she thinks or that she does, it's what he or she says in social media. So let's, as social workers, let's educate others who don't know the effect of social media, and let's read them on how can they cope to have good mental health. Thank you once again, Nona.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for that reflection. I want to also mention another question that is arising from your discussion, Ronald. Maybe you can note it down. You will respond to them after the last speaker has done their presentation. This is coming from Francis. He is saying, thank you, Ronald, for a nice presentation. I'm wondering whether there could be a user-friendly psychosocial assessment guide that could be used by professional social workers in diagnosing early signs of mental health disorders among minors as a way of preventing scenario of mental illness. I think you have taken that question. I am wondering whether there could be a user-friendly psychosocial assessment that could be used by professional social workers in diagnosing early signs of mental health disorders among minors as a way of preventing worst-case scenario of mental health. That is a question. Our viewers, please continue chatting your questions on the various platforms that you are viewing us from, YouTube and Facebook. Be sure that we are going to respond to your questions in as much as the time is going to allow us. Allow us to move to the third presentation at this juncture. We are going to have a presenter from my country, Kenya, a very wonderful country, and it's well to invite you to our country so that you may come and walk around and see for yourself the physical features and all the other richness that we have. I'm sorry for being so proud for our country, but the third presentation is about self-care practices for mental health. Self-care practices for mental health. Now that we have talked about limited mental health facilities and their impact on mental health, we have also talked about social media and mental health. And now we are going to look at the self-care practices for mental health. And this is going to be done by the one and only Mike Waweru from Kenya. Mike, feel free to share with us and enlighten us more about the self-care practices. Welcome, Mike, from Kenya.
Thank you very much, Joshua. And let me join Ronald and Faith and Lisa and Joshua to thank everyone that is logged in at the moment on the different platforms for sharing your time and allowing us to have this discussion. My name is Mike Wawero, or social worker Mike. And in case you're not a social worker, social workers are professionals who are made up of people who are passionate to solve social challenges. But in addition to just being passionate, they spend their time and resources to go to school so that they can understand problems, why we have certain problems and what we can do about them. So social workers are very well placed to address mental health issues as counselors of different types of people. In addition to that, social workers work with children, young adults, teenagers, the elderly at every stage. So in case you might have an issue, regardless of which part of the world that you are in, we have social workers. So if you can get yourself an access to a social worker when you have any mental health issues, they are very well, they are competent enough to assist you. In relation to my presentation on self-care practices for healthy and sustainable mental health, I'd like to point out that as a social worker, and my presentation will be informed by several things. Number one, in my experience working with children in children's homes, teenage mothers, school children, and young men, as well as personally, I am at the moment undergoing psychiatric sessions. One of my diagnoses is that I have a bipolar 1 disorder. It is one of the clinical diagnoses of mental health. And then, so I will mention on if, for example, your mental health is clinically diagnosed as maybe bipolar, psychosis, any of that, then your approach will be informed by that diagnosis. But also at the same time, there are stressors. It can be stress, it can be chronic stress, it can be depression, but it's not informed by anything that is genetic or clinical. So what do we need to do about that? Now, when it comes to one of the things I would hope to for us to achieve at the end of this session is how do we develop our resilience? Resilience meaning that we will all face difficult situations. Now, resilience means that we go through challenges, but how can we respond positively to those challenges? That is one of the things that if we are able to develop our resilience, if we are able to build our resilience, then there is a higher probability that we will have a relatively healthy mind, regardless of what is happening around us. At the same time, so in the beginning of my presentation, I'll just go through some of the reasons for unhealthy mental well-being, in addition to what Ronald has just presented around social media. Now, one of the reasons would be we are not physically healthy. Now, because we are not physically healthy, it means that we can develop stress, or we can have stress simply because we are not physically healthy. Number two, our nutrition. What we eat informs a lot our mental state. Our spiritual life, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, it is important to answer that question so that you are conscious or in your spirit, you are not conflicted. How our spiritual life is also impacts our mental well-being. Again, our finances. It could be, are we making enough? Or are we having enough finances? So finances actually is a very big contributor of our mental health. Again, our career life. It can be career, it can be business, it can be how are we advancing in terms of our career. If someone feels like they are not making any progress, it is likely to cause them having mental issues. Again, our impact in society. For someone who sees themselves as a valuable member of the society, that they are contributing something bigger and larger for others, it increases their self-esteem, and they are very likely to have a relatively better mental health state than someone who does not see themselves as a valuable member in the society. Another cause for unhealthy mental well-being could be your personal growth or your personal evolution. Can you compare the person you are now from the person that you have been in the past? Can you see some development? Are you making some progress in the type of the person that you are becoming? If someone can see progress, can see maybe let's say in terms of resilience, last year time like now, there were issues that were troubling them, but they have been able to learn, to grow, to develop skills and strategies in a way that the same problems are not very heavy on them, and they are able to manage. So someone who can see that they are growing as a person, they will have a relatively better mental health. Again, our social lives. How are we relating with our friends? Do we even have friends in the first place? And what types of friends do we have? The type of friends we have and our social life to a great extent will impact our mental well-being. Again, our family lives. For example, for those who are maybe at our age, let's say, for example, the youth, is someone even able to date? Are they dating? Have they married? Do they have a family? So, and then how is someone relating with their immediate family and extended family? If those relationships are not well, then there is a higher probability that that person will be stressed. And then childhood experiences. The difficulties that we experienced as children, the life that we grew up in, our homes, things that have caused traumas in our life, how are we addressing them? Are we even aware of them? So that we do not just have blanket statements that this is who I am, this is who we are as a family. We are always depressed, we are always stressed. Can you connect your childhood and your current state in terms of maybe it is repeated depression, there is chronic stresses that you cannot say are happening because of anything that has happened, but maybe are caused by our childhood experiences. Again, there is, as we grow up and as we mature, there is increased demand and responsibilities on what we are, on our expectations in life. Maybe you have completed your college or your university. Now the society and your family expects you to be employed, to have money, to marry, to do things that they say your peers are doing. Now, are we able to handle all that? The unfortunate part is those demands keep increasing, and to a large extent, they also contribute to our mental health. And another one is unmatched. There is a disconnect between our ambitions, our dreams, and the reality. Maybe you had planned to be a millionaire by the time you're 25, but you are 25 years and you are in debt. Maybe you had plans to start a business, but you have not started that business. You wanted to complete school, but for whatever reasons you have not managed to do. So that disconnect between our ambitions, our dreams, and the reality is also a big factor in our mental health state. And then a very big one that we are not usually conscious of is the transitions and the difference in roles. For example, at every major life stage and point, there is a transition that usually happens. For example, you transition from high school to college to campus life. There is a shift in identity. You have, for example, you are single, now you are dating. There is a difference in identity. Maybe you are marrying, you have gotten employment. Those are different identities that we take, identities that inform how we think, how we feel, how we behave. If we are not very much aware of those identity and we are very present and are able to acknowledge and make informed decisions, then that can be a source of stress, whereby we might be at a stage and we are wishing that we still want to behave as if we were in a previous role or as a previous person. So role identity and shifts is also important. Now, what are some of the perspectives and attitudes that we can consider taking for us that will improve our mental health? One of the perspectives and the attitude is, number one, there is a time to be helped, and there is a time that will come for you to help others. This is important, especially for maybe someone who is still in college or at school or has just graduated, and there are all these expectations. The expectations and the demands and the pressure are good, but how do we balance them out? Now, with this perspective that there is a time to be helped and a time to help is important, because it will allow you to ask for help when it is necessary that you need another person's help. It is very much okay to ask for help, to accept help, because now a time will come for you to be in a position to help someone else. So when you are in a position that it is your time to be helped and to ask for help, it is very much okay to do that. Ask for help, do not shy off, and do not feel bad that maybe some other people are ahead of you and will not necessarily ask the help that you're asking. It is very much okay to ask for help, so ask for it, so that when it is your time to help someone else, it will be easier and you'll do that gladly. And I don't think when it is your time to help others, you will take it very well when you are trying to help someone and they are refusing your help. I'm saying this because many people have this attitude that if you ask for help, you are weak, especially for guys. It is not weakness, it is a show of strength, and you should consider accepting that. When it is your time to ask for help, ask for it and receive it gracefully. Your time will come to give help. Another perspective that you should consider is that our abilities will increase with time. What you are not able to do now, you will be able to do it in a month's time, in 6 months' time, in next year. So that you do not beat yourself down, you do not feel bad about yourself. I'm sure where we are now, what we are able to do now is not the same thing we were able to do like 3 years, 5 years ago. Now we are able to do much more. So be gentle with yourself, be kind, be patient with yourself. Your abilities will increase. Your knowledge will increase, your skill set will increase, your resources will increase. And what you are not able to do now, you will be able to do later. And another perspective that you should consider is that people who may not have history of depression or are not clinically depressed will be stressed if they do not have the right coping strategies and they do not have the skill set to manage stress. At the same time, someone who may be clinically diagnosed with a mental health condition or has a history of depression or even suicide can manage to cope with stress if they develop skills and strategies to cope with those. So again, we shift our focus from it is natural for others to be strong, it is natural for others to be able to manage this. No, it is a skill. We can develop skills, we can develop strategies, and we can put some strategies in place to ensure that when we encounter difficult situations, we are able to process through them and we are able to respond positively regardless of what is happening to us. So the focus here is not that naturally I am strong or naturally I am weak. The point here is, can we develop our skills? Can we put in place strategies that will help us have a healthy mental state and we are able to do the things that we would wish to do? Again, it is very important and it helps to have a positive attitude, to have hope, to know that things will eventually change. It makes a difference. So I know positive attitude has been said so many times, but it helps to have a positive mindset. It helps to have hope. It helps to believe that the future will be much better than the past. It strengthens your mind and it strengthens your resilience and you are able to cope with things better. Again, now, most of our problems, most of the challenges that cause us stress, chronic stress and depression are emotional. They are not things that we can touch. They are not physical things. Some are not even facts. They are emotional. So when we work on our emotional intelligence, when we develop our ability to feel everything and to be able to react or to act in a way that is beneficial to us and the people around us, then we are able to manage our emotions. A lot of mental health issues are emotional based. They are emotional triggers. So if we are able to understand that most of our problems are emotional, they are not facts, they are not so big, then we are able to separate our maybe other parts of our lives, and then we are able to focus on our emotions. So rather than feeling that the whole world is crumbling down or nothing is going on with my life, it is hopeless, we can focus on our emotions and work on improving our emotions. And if we do that again, we are able to deal better and to respond positively to the challenges that we are facing. And lastly, in terms of perspectives and attitudes, it is very important that we take 100% responsibility of our life. Now, as children, it is very much okay for us to take care of them, to tell them what they need to do, to advise them, to guide them, to lead them, and to help them to transition, and maybe to some extent, to a large extent, I could say, take responsibility of how they are feeling and maybe their stresses. Now, when we become adults, it is important that we take 100% responsibility of our mental state, so that number one, we are able to put in place strategies, mechanisms, and develop skills that help us to be mentally strong. We are able to to become accountable to ourselves, so that whatever needs to be done, whether it's going to a psychiatric, a psychologist, a counselor, we do that. Whether it is like Ronald had suggested, whether it's switching off our phone, we do that. Whether it's maybe around the things I had mentioned earlier, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's exercising, because most of us know what we need to do. The good thing also is we have internet, we have phones, we have smartphones. We can Google, we can do research, and we would know that if we wanted to improve our mental health, if we did 1, 2, 3, we will be able to do that. Now, by taking 100% responsibility and this is one of the challenges with Africans and our culture and everything, that, yes, it is very good to get prayers. It is very good to go to our spiritual leaders for prayers and to do that. But some problems are self-inflicted. Some problems have nothing to do with prayers. They have to do with maybe you sleeping at the right time, watching what you are eating, and taking your responsibilities seriously. It is as simple as that. So if we stop spiritualizing or religionizing everything mental health, it helps to take 100% responsibility. Now, we have looked at what are some of the causes of being mentally unhealthy. We have looked at some of the perspectives and attitudes. Now, I am going to suggest about 6 things that if we did, you are able to maintain a relatively healthier mental state. And what I'm suggesting is they are things that have worked for me. For a long time, I have been suicidal. I think up to the age of 20, I had, on a monthly basis, I will always have a suicidal thought, and I have attempted suicide severally. But now it is because I was unable to deal with some of the traumas I had, and to disconnect where I am, the things that are happening again, and then blaming it on other people, and even hoping that somehow someone will come and help me, or they will just come to an end. But again, taking 100% responsibility, adopting those attitudes and perspectives help along in a very big way. So number 1, what can we do? 2, now we are looking at the biggest percentage of mental health conditions or issues that are not clinical. For clinical, please go to a counselor, go to a psychologist, get diagnosed, and they will help you through that process. Some require medication, but most of them do not require medication. But now for I think 75-80% of stress, depression, and conditions that have nothing to do with genetics and even clinical, what can we do? Number 1, exercise. If you exercised 5 minutes or even 10 minutes on a daily basis, it can be as simple as taking a walk. It can be as simple as doing some sit-ups or press-ups. That does affect how our body feels and how our mind thinks. So exercise is a big one. Exercise. Number 2, eat healthy foods. If you eat some foods, your body will feel a certain type of way. And how you feel, again, your body, your mind will now begin to overthink. And then you'll have some connections that are not very, very healthy, and you'll end up finding yourself that you have become very stressed. Your body is not very healthy. And then you get stressed, chronically stressed and depressed, simply because you did not eat the right food. Number 3, have enough sleep. Like the cycle Ronald shared, have enough sleep, so that when you have enough sleep, you are able to wake up when you are refreshed, and you are able to deal with the normal challenges or problems that are there. And even the ones that are very big, you'll be at a state whereby you are able to address them. So if your body needs 6 hours or 7 hours or 8 hours, please have them on a regular basis, so that your moods will be okay, will not be so frustrated, and you'll be able to operate well. Number 4, it is important that you plan and be proactive with your life. Have goals. Whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you want to achieve, plan for them. Have goals, set timelines. You can have a list of your dreams, come up with goals and strategies of how to accomplish them, so that the challenge of your reality and your dreams having that disconnect, you start solving them. When you have a plan and you're proactive towards that plan, it means that, trust me, you'll be able to eliminate a lot of stress. You might not be where you are, but you'll have that sense of confidence and hope that you are working towards that. Again, just do your best. Just do your best. This is important because, and our best will mean different things at different times. Your best will mean something different when you are sick. Your best will mean something different when you are healthy. Your best will mean something different when you have enough resources, and your best will mean something different under different circumstances. But as long as you know within yourself, within your conscious, that you did your very best, indirectly it improves your mental health. And lastly, work on your emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, I'll use this definition, that develop the capacity to feel everything, every emotions, the ones that we label as good, the ones that we label as bad, whether it's pain, whether it's joy, whether it's happiness, whether it's peace, tranquility. Allow yourself to feel all those emotions. As humans, we are emotional beings. And the second part is develop the ability and the capacity to respond positively to all those emotions, so that you are able to take actions, to use words that are beneficial to you, and maybe they progress the agenda of the people and the things that are important to you, so that we avoid the reactionary mode, whereby because you are triggered by something, you feel angry, and then you do something that you later regret. And an important part is, with emotional intelligence, acknowledge how you're feeling, and then move forward. Thank you so much for this session once again, and back to you, Joshua.
Thank you, Michael, for the wonderful and perfect presentation which you have shared this night. To enlighten on what you have shared, the impact of mental health, physical exercise, as you have already said, physical health. The examples of physical health, physical exercise, having enough time to sleep, and nutrition, making sure that you are taking proper food nutrients. It can help and enables a person to maintain the mental health. I would like to thank you once again for such a wonderful and perfect presentation. This is so helpful. Thank you once again. Joshua, I didn't receive any question from the
participants, those who are participating directly through this media that we are in. Kindly, if you have a question, you can just raise up your hand. We'll be able to see you and give you a chance to pose your question. I know Mayaka is also helping us to track the questions on the other platforms such as the YouTube and Facebook, and we'll be able to respond to these questions. We have roughly 10 minutes before we can conclude. As we are getting these questions and as you prepare to ask the questions, and Lisa is helping me track the raised hands on the screen. Maybe I thought it's important I give you an introduction of who I am. I remember some time back, it's important that I was told that you don't to look down upon yourself. I wish to inform you that I am a student at Moi University in Eldoret, Kenya, and I am pursuing social work. I am in my third year of study, the second semester. And at the same time, I'm the secretary to Social Justice Beyond Borders Association, which is a student association that we established recently in the university, and we have stretched our connection to other universities in Kenya, such as Masai Mara University. And I am also a facilitation member, facilitation committee member in the Young African Social Workers, the host of this event. I want again to thank you, our viewers that have joined us and streamed from various platforms such as YouTube and Facebook, and also on Zoom, this main platform where we are preparing all these presentations. Thanks again to the presenters, Mike, Ronald and Faith, for the wonderful work you have done. It's not easy. Thank you again to Lisa Pishesi from Malawi for the wonderful moderation of the session. Maybe Lisa, do you have such questions that have come on your side, or maybe you've been thinking there about certain issues and you would want this moderators to respond to? But before you come in, I would love to welcome Ronald. I remember there were two questions posed to Ronald, but all the presenters are free to take part in answering the question. One of the questions was, should we do away with social media, or there is a different perspective of approach to the use of these platforms? Ronald, if you can hear me, you can kindly unmute yourself and give your response to the two questions that were posed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So I'll respond. The question was, should we do away with social media, or there's a way of, in short, they were saying is there's a way of using it. So this is my response to the question, that us as social workers, we understand these things, we understand the dynamics, and we've made researches around this area. So what we need to do, we need to be the ambassadors of good use of social media. We can't do away with social media because it's impossible, because this is where people are and this is where life and technology is going. But what we can do is, let's work with the channels that are already there. But with those channels, let's then try by all means to modify and make them be good. Now we have seen that there are a lot of things that are happening. Let's put in structures, let's put in let's engage with policymakers if it means that we need to have policies that then guide the use of these platforms. Because I'll give an example on the issue of cyberbullying. I know most countries in Africa, I'm not really sure how many have legislation that then guides the use of social media. So I think it is upon us, it is upon every one of us who is listening right now, that we need to be the good ambassadors of social media. Let's use social media wisely. And if everyone is on social media, why then can't we start something that would then help people deal with their mental health problems on social media? Because where people are qualified to do these things, already we have a platform and we have seen that there's a problem. So I would suggest that we can't do away with social media. Rather, we can use it as an opportunity to come up with solutions that will solve the problems. I hope I've answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer. I believe you are also preparing to give answer to the second question, if you don't mind. And any other presenter is welcome to give their view on regarding the questions. I have a question to Mike. Mike, now that we know the self-care practices, that the way you have highlighted them in our discussion and the way you put them in a very good way. The question comes now. It is not a fact that we do not know. It is a fact indeed that people know of these diseases. People know of the attitudes they have put. Now, they end up in one way or the other finding themselves in this mental health crisis, mental health issues, mental health problems. So what is your view, and what do you advise to people, especially for us who for those who are professionals already? They find themselves still in such issues. I heard you mention that you are in a situation, in a problem with mental health. What is your advice to professionals that are viewing us?
I will be a bit brutal. Now, if you know what you need to do and you are an adult, I will not have pity on you, because we have children and other people who are actually not in a position to do things for themselves. So if you know what you need to do and you're not doing it, I cannot have even pity for you. Now, even as I say that, I understand that it is not an easy thing. It is a question of self-discipline. But what we need to do is to know that it develops progressively. So you know what you need to do. Start practicing that. You will not get it perfect from the beginning, but progressively, after 1 week, after 1 month, after 3 months, after 1 year, you'll be able to have it. So just begin. But do not hope that maybe things will just change. And if you know what you need to do, just force yourself to do it. At the beginning, you have to force yourself to do it. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mike, for your response to that. And I love the way you have put it. I remember in a certain conference that we had in Masai Mara, some professionals from Kenya actually were really disputing on the issue of self-care, which they thought it was to some point a story, a thing that would eventually not be easily met or rather achieved. There is a question popping up from Asifiwe. Is there any possibility of a person with mental health problem to help people with the same problem, that is mental health problem? Is there a possibility or of a person with mental health problem to help people with the same problem? This question goes to all our speakers, Ronald, Faith, Mike, whoever is ready to respond to this question, kindly give a response.
Yes, it is very possible, and for several reasons. Number one, if you want, it is easier to help yourself when you're helping someone else. So if maybe someone has a mental health condition that could even be similar to yours, and at that very state or moment, you are in a position to help them, by helping them, you will be helping yourself. Number two, in the process of helping them, you will remind yourself of what needs to be done, and you will find that you'll begin to practice some things that you may have known, but you are not practicing. So yes, it's possible to help. And it is also a very good thing if you are able to, because it will reinforce what you know, and it will also improve your mental health. Thank you.
Nico, for your reflection on the question. I'm really humbled for your response. I want to invite Mayaka, if he is available on the platform, so that he can give closing remarks. Even as Mayaka is preparing to give the closing remarks, I wish to thank you, our participants. Thank you, our viewers, for sacrificing this beautiful, wonderful time so that you may be able to take part in this event. Asifili is very happy with the response that has been given. So kudos, Mike, kudos, Faith, kudos, Ronald, for the wonderful work that you have done. Mayaka, if you are in the session, kindly come in and give your closing remarks.
Good evening, colleagues. I want to take this opportunity to present my sincere appreciation to all that have taken part in moderation, facilitation, and even speaking and contributing online. We've had a lot of comments in both social media platforms, that is Facebook and YouTube. We are glad that in as much as we are having challenges with the technology or social media, we are still able to share all this knowledge with everybody who is able to access it. Well, generally, mental health is a very big concern globally. And we've had a lot of young people, particularly, being involved in committing suicide and not being able to be able to work on their challenges because of being vulnerable. It is therefore our role and our concern as social workers to come on board and take care of ourselves, even as we work on taking care of our fellow human beings or individuals in the society. This is not an easy task, yet it is feasible. So it is very important for everyone who is able to speak to one young person or any other individual in the community. It's very important we share and we treat each other with the dignity. Mental health is a very big concern, and we need to do away with taboos, some cultural practices that place mental health as a curse or a witchcraft and such like ideologies. This is a medical or a medical condition that it requires medical or science approach so that we can be able to work or improve our society. And lastly, social media is a very important tool. However, if misused, it can be very addictive, thus affecting our lives. We want to say to all that joined us live, thank you so much. Asante sana, obrigado, muito obrigado, merci beaucoup, and wish you the very best even as you begin the new week. Be blessed, everybody, and let's continue with the conversation online. And more importantly, let's share the love so that we can be able to take care